Hi. Okay, today we're going to start cables. Yay. The first thing I want to tell you about cables is take your time. Don't be in a hurry. Go slow as you need to. Enjoy your journey. The product is just a byproduct of your journey. So go ahead and take a lot of time. It's not a big deal. So the things you're going to need, I already have my little stickies. I'm going to use the smaller ones because they hide. They're perfect. You can cut the bigger ones. If you have bigger ones like this, just cut yourself a little strip and use that. I have my counter, and if you push the little button, it'll zero it back to 0 because that's where we're going to start, because we haven't done any yet. I have my cable needle. I have my 1.5 inch of ribbing, and then we did a setup row in our last video. And then I have my pattern. So what I've done is I've gone ahead, I have it anchored here at the top, and I'm just going to throw this over here for now because I will use it as we start going down our rows. But I have my first magnet under round 1, and that's what we're going to do. Now remember, you should have, hopefully you've already highlighted the sizes that you're making, and so that's what you're looking at. You're not looking at, for example, round 1, K4, C4B, C4F, K4, P3. Everybody does that. And then in the parentheses, there's a 5, a 3, and a 5. Well, those match whatever size you're doing up here. So if you've cast on 106 stitches, you're going to do 5 times around. You're going to do that 5 times around. Okay, so what we need to go ahead and start with is, let's get our knitting. And I'm going to use, I guess I'm going to use, let's see, I think I'll use green. I like green. What I want to do is, if you look at round 1, in big brackets, there's a K4, comma, C4B, comma. So I want to go ahead and put my green right after that first comma, so that all I'm basically looking at is my K4. Now just ignore whatever's on the right of that. We're reading from left to right, so we're going to K4. Now a K means knit. So that's the first thing we want to do on our work. We want to go ahead, make sure your yarn is at the back because we're knitting. Pull your needle out and go ahead and just knit 4. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to set that down for now to show you. And I accidentally folded it, so I have to figure that one out. I'll be right there in just a minute, sorry. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move our sticky to the next comma, which is right after the C4B. Now, when you look at your key and abbreviations down here, C4B, if you want to learn how to read charts, this is what it looks like. And I don't like charts with cables. They really kind of fry my brain. So I basically go off the wording. But a C4B is, we're going to do a cable 4 back, which means we're working with 4 stitches, and our cable needle is going to go to the back. In order to complete that, we need to slip 2 stitches to our cable needle, hold that needle in the back of our work, knit 2 from our left hand needle, and then knit those 2 from the cane, or the cable needle. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to work with 4 stitches. So we want to use our cable needle, and you're going to move them like you would purl a stitch. And so we're going to take 1 stitch, 2 stitches, and those are on our cable needle, so we're going to put them at the back, and that means that our 2 working needles are right here in the front. And if you push it down a little bit, you can't even see that. So then I'm going to knit, and what I do is I try to push my fingers to hold these 2 stitches a little bit close together so that you don't have a big gap. And once you've knit them, you can also just tug it a little bit, not a great big tug, don't make it terribly tight, but then go ahead and knit the second stitch. Okay, so you have the 2 stitches from your regular needle. Now, I'm going to give you a few other tips. If you're afraid of losing these stitches, them falling off your needle, go ahead and push them back. It's not a big deal. We'll be doing, until you get comfortable with cables, just do whatever makes it easy for you. So this needle that's in the back, you have 2 choices. If you are comfortable just lining this up in the back and knitting them from the back, you can do that. You can also just wiggle this to the front and knit them from the front. I'm happy to do it either way. A lot of times, depending on what I'm knitting, I will move it to the front. So we're going to go ahead and knit those cables, right, or that yarn right off those cable needles. Now that's all there is to working with cables. That's a C cable 4 stitches in the back. So that means 2 go in the back, which means your stitches are getting twisted. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to move our little sticky to the next comma. And when we look at that, it's a C4F. Now, if you look at your legend, your key to abbreviations, a C4F, it looks like this if you're working from a chart. And you can work on memorizing that. I have done it, and every single one I have to go and look and see what it is before I can knit it, because these just really do my brain in. And this is a personal choice. If you like working with pictures like this, go ahead and start working, start trying to memorize these, and you'll probably be fine. I just can't handle it. I can't handle it. So a cable for front means that we're going to work with 4 stitches again. We're going to slip 2 stitches to our cable needle, and we're going to hold them in the front, and then we're going to knit 2 stitches from our left hand needle, which is, you know, our regular working needle, and then we're going to knit the 2 from the cable needle. So let's go ahead and work a cable for front. So we're working with 4 stitches. We need 2 stitches slipped to our cable needle, and we slip them as if we're purling. I'm going to hold them out of the way, get my yarn out of here, and then I'm going to go ahead and knit the 2 stitches from the back, and you'll see me, I'm trying to push those stitches together so that I don't have a big gap, and then I'm going to knit my second one, and then I'm going to go ahead and push my stitch. And again, if you have to move these stitches, feel free to do that. After a while, you might get to the point all of your fingers are working holding things, and that's okay too. And I will start doing that after I show you that it's okay to do this. This is not a big deal. So we're going to knit those 2 stitches from our cable. And you have started your cable pattern. And I don't know if you can see that, but they're twisted. As we get going, it's basically these very first twists right here. And we will be working these ways to make our antlers. Okay, so after we've done that, let's go ahead and move our sticky to the next comma. And it tells us we're going to K4, which means we're just going to knit 4 from a regular needle. And I have yarn all twisted around. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then our next stitches, I'm going to move my sticky, and there's no comma, but we do have parentheses, so I'm going to just cover those parentheses. And it says we're going to purl 3. So again, you have to look at your stitches, because I've already purled these 3. They are laying this way. The right leg of my stitch is going behind. So that means I have to come behind that stitch, do a clockwise, and purl it off. And the same with this one. Behind, clockwise wrap, behind, clockwise wrap, off. and then I'm going to push my yarn to the back. So we've made our 3 purl stitches that have those little bumps across them. Remember, that tells us that those are purl stitches. So the next thing you want to do is go ahead and move your stitch holder, and I'm going to push mine to the front so that it doesn't get in the way of my yarn. And then I'm going to go ahead and move my sticky back to my first comma. And we're going to do it again. Now we're going to do that 4 times. And I'm going to work with you one more time, then I'm going to fast forward through the other side, but you're going to have to work through that. And then we will go on to row 2. So we're going to knit 4, and I'm leaving my stitches up here, but remember, you're welcome to push them back to get them out of the way if you're afraid that they're going to fall off of your needle. That is not a big deal. The next one, go ahead and move your sticky. The next one is a C4B, which is a cable 4 back. We move 2 stitches to the back, and you can see I'm using lots of fingers. I use my ring finger to kind of hold my yarn pushed up. I use my middle finger to kind of hold my needle down, and don't worry about this. If you have to knit this whole hat moving stitches back and forth, you go ahead, take your time, don't worry about it. So I'm going to move some of these stitches closer to the top of my needle as I go ahead and knit. We're going to knit 2 off of our regular needle, and then we're going to go ahead and knit the 2 off of our cable. Now you might have to use your thumb to separate those 2 stitches because sometimes your yarn starts to flow together and it's hard to tell where your stitches are. So there, we've done our cable 4 back. The next one, move your little sticky. The next one is a C4 front, which again, we're just going to move 2 of our stitches to the front. I'm going to hold it with my thumb out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and knit the 2 stitches on my regular needle, and then I'm going to go ahead and knit these 2 stitches off of my cable needle. Okay, I'm going to put my cable needle down because we're kind of done with that. And move your sticky, and the last knit is 4 knits and 3 purls. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. I bring my yarn to the front of my needle. I purl through the back, which means I take my needle under my yarn, bring it up. I rewind it clockwise and take it off. Do the same. Go under from the back, under from the back. There, you've done 2 cables already. Now, I'm going to take this off because I know that I don't need it, but if you need it, you just leave it there. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Okay, so we finished one side, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to push our loose needle through so that we can work on this side. So I think I'm going to go ahead and work with you on this side. I know this will take time, and if you don't want to follow along, just go ahead and push get your video to the place where you want it. But I'm going to work through this with you because the first time you cable, it can be a little mind-blowing. Okay, so I have my yarn to the back. I'm going to pull my needle, and we know that we have to knit 4. We're going to start again, knit 4. And we're going to do a cable back 4. So we want to get our cable needle, take 2 of those stitches to the back. We work the next, and see I'm holding it with that middle finger. Go ahead and knit the 2 stitches from your regular needle, and then we're going to knit the 2 from our cable needle. Okay, so we've done the back. We need to do the 4, C4 front, C4F. So we know we're working with 4 stitches. We want to take 2 and hold them to the front. And so instead of knitting them straight across, we're actually pulling these 2, and we will knit them after these 2, which means that's how we're making our cables. It's really quite fun. So I'm going to go ahead and knit my 2 stitches from my regular needle that are in the back of my work. And then I'm going to knit the 2 stitches on my cable needle. And I can drop my cable needle for now. And then we're going to knit 4 and purl 4, or purl 3. Knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the way I purl, I have to go behind, take my needle behind to the back underneath that stitch, clockwise, off, underneath, come through, wrap it clockwise, off, again from the back, under, clockwise, through. Okay, you've done 3 cable stitches, 3 cables. Oh, how exciting. So we're going to go ahead and move our stitch holder and start again right at the beginning of that round. We're going to knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, cable 4, 2 to the back, hold it down, go ahead and knit 2 stitches from your regular needle, knit the 2 stitches from your cable needle, and this is probably one of the hardest, so just take your time. Don't feel like you have to be in a hurry. It took me a while to learn cables, and I kept doing the little tricks I show you. I kept moving things and moving them back and just taking my time. We're going to do a cable 4 front, so I move 2 to my cable needle. I hold them in the front. I knit the 2 on my back regular needle. And I go ahead and knit the 2 from my cable needle. Now, if you're using some really sharp needles, see how I use my finger to push my needle down? You don't want to do that because that will puncture your skin. But these I can handle. They're bigger and they're not a big deal. So we've done our cable 4. Our yarn is in the back. We're going to knit 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to pull our yarn forward and purl. So we go to the back, clockwise, off, back, clockwise, off, back, clockwise, off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my yarn to the back between my needles. And we have gone ahead and finished our first row. So if you look at it closely, you can kind of see the pattern that you're doing. There's your cables, the starting of your cable. These are your regular stitches. These are your purls. And then we're going to knit again, cable, knit, purl. So it's starting to take shape already. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead, and I'm on my second round. I guess before we do that, let's go ahead and make sure that's a 1, because we finished the 1. We finished row 1. And I'm going to put that away. So then I'm going to go ahead and move my magnet down to round 2. Now, if you're using stickies and you don't have one of these pattern holders, go ahead and use a couple of these. go ahead and put put it right there so that all you see is, you can even use one of these to hide that if you need to. Once you have one underneath, I think you'll be okay. So when we look at this pattern, rounds 2, 4, and 6 are all the same. So once you get going, and I've done this maybe 10, 20 times, you'll start to memorize this and you won't really need to go back and forth. But that's what your stitch counter will help you with, because if I move this down to round 3 and I finish it and then I move it back up to do round 4, you have to remember that you're going to round 5 next. You don't want to go back and repeat round 3. So that's where this really comes in handy. If you don't have one of these, if you don't have a stitch counter, just start marking little tick marks on a piece of paper. And, you know, for example, we finished round 1. I would go ahead and put a tick mark to tell me that I've done round 1. Once I get up to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then when I do the second one, this is the first round. You'll see we have to work those rounds a total. I have to work them a total of 5 times. So I have to work all of these 5 times. So once I get to round 6, I go back to round 1. And then if you're using tick marks, once you've done a round, that's your first round, just start again. And that's round 2, and so forth and so on. If you're using this, I will show you how we're going to do that in just a little bit. So let's go ahead and mark our row 2. We want to do row 2. And these are very easy rows. They're nothing more than knits and purls. So I'm going to go ahead and move my yarn to the top of my needle. Make sure your working thread is at the back. Okay, make sure you haven't twisted it a few times. When you look at it coming out of this little hole, then just push it back once. Okay, pull your needle. And let's go ahead. Our pattern says that we are going to knit 16 and then purl 3. So I'm going to knit 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, this is a cable, and sometimes they get a little, the yarn will get a little stuck together, so be a little careful. So we have 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, and I'll use my sum to separate them. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now, to double check, I can look at my next stitches, and I only have 3 before I hit my stitch marker. Those get purled. I can also look at them and tell they get purled because they have the little bump right at the needle across the thread. So let's pull our yarn to the front, and we're going to go in from the back and under, wrap clockwise again, pull it off. Go in from the back and under, wrap clockwise and off. Go in from the back and under, wrap clockwise and off. Then you want to take your yarn back so you're ready to knit your next one. And again, like I said, this is just the same pattern all throughout. We're not doing cables, so this is a very easy row to work. We're going to knit 16 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm at a cable. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm going to bring my yarn between my needles to the front. I'm going to check. Yep, those are my last 3 stitches. So I'm going to go to the back, under, clockwise, off. To the back, under, clockwise, off. to the back, under, clockwise, off. And there we have finished one side. I'm going to work the next side with you. And again, if this is boring for you, go ahead and skip to the next part where you're okay to work. I do take a lot of time with new skills. And not everybody thinks the same way. We all think differently. So I try to present things in a couple ways if I can. If you think of something new, hey, maybe make a little note down there in the comments for other people if you found something easier for you, because the ways that I'm showing, they might not click with the people that are watching, but if you write it down in a comment, they might get it. They might understand it better. So, hey, you are part of this class, and I want you to have fun, but go ahead and help other people too. So let's go ahead and knit our 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and we should be at our purls. Yep. Oh, and you know what I see? I have split a yarn. There we go. So I'm going to move my yarn to the front, so I'm ready to purl. I go to the back, under my yarn, clockwise, off, to the back, under, clockwise, off, to the back, under, clockwise, off. Ooh, we've done 3 sets. Let's go to our last one. Move your stitch marker. And we're going to knit 16. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Bring your yarn to the front. Check and make sure you only have 3 stitches. Yep. We're going to go from the back of our needle up, clockwise, off. The back of our needle up, clockwise, off. The back of our needle up, clockwise, off. You have finished row 2. I am so tickled that you have come this far with me. And again, I just want to encourage you to go as slow as you need to. You don't have to keep up with me. You don't have to. This is not a competition. This is fun. This is therapy. It's cheaper than a therapist. So we're going to finish this for today. We're going to be done with this for today. And I'm going to close this video, but I want to remind you that the next video we do, we're going to work on rounds 3 and 4. So if you want to start learning how to do the charts, just start comparing them. Get a piece of scrap thread, yarn and needles, and work with them. I can do them. I hate them. They take me 3 times as long to knit cables when I work through this, and it's just the way my mind works. It's okay. It's not bad. It's just how I think. So if you're interested in that, get some other yarn and start playing with that. But next time, we're going to work on round 3. So before I go, I want to remind you on your counter, let's forward that to row 2 to tell us that we're finished with row 2. So that tells us that next week we start on row 3. Okay, I'm glad to work with you. I hope I see you next week. I'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.